we are literally the last generation who will ever live in a world that's not dominated by AI, for better or worse, right? Our kids will never know that world, what that world was like before AI. And we used to say that about smartphones, but now this is a totally different, you know, level of transformation.
Welcome to our new Spaceship podcast featuring members of the Spaceship team. As some of you may have had a chance to follow, we've had an ongoing series with one of our founders, Todd, featuring fellows from the Spaceship Academy. And this has been a great series where you can learn more about our fellows and some of the activities that they're doing and some of the collaboration they have with the Spaceship. However, this version is going to be a little lighter, hopefully a little more fun for listeners to get to know our team, learn more about our mission, and engage in learning more about the things we care about. So this is our first episode. So we're very excited about coming to you and sharing this with you. We haven't really thought of a name yet, have we? So maybe we need to come up with a name, Blast Off or the Crew or something. And please, if you have an idea for us, leave it in the comments and we'll consider it because I do think we need to have a name for this series. Welcome to everybody. I'm going to start by having our team introduce themselves and maybe tell a little bit of something that's going on with you this week, something interesting that you've learned or done this week. In fact, we have one of our Spaceship Fellows, Christy Hemmer, who's the director and founder of the Association of Women's Empowerment. She always talks about a Moxie. So maybe we'll channel Christy and talk about a Moxie moment. So Todd, can I start with you?
Sure. Well, hello. This is great, Christy and Craig, to be with you. And we're coming to you from Iowa and California and Paris. And, kind of like the spaceship, we're very global. We go from big cities to little towns around the world. I'm Todd. I am one of the co-founders, long corporate history, and have within the last couple of years ended that and moved into startup world and have been working with the spaceship. I'm based in Los Angeles and I'm real happy to be here with you guys.
And what's your interesting moment for the week?
My interesting moment. Well, so for me, like now that I'm working in startup world, I have a little more time on my hands and I've kind of started to get into some sports and things that I hadn't done for a while. And I recently started playing tennis again. And I'm teaching my wife, and Craig's daughter how to play tennis. And it's been really fun because I never was a teacher, but being in spaceship and education field, now I'm trying to like think more like a teacher. And while I can't say either of them are ready for Wimbledon or neither am I, we certainly are moving the ball and having a good time and getting some exercise along the way. So it's been really fun to rediscover tennis with some new people who've never played before.
Awesome. And have you guys tried pickleball at all?
Pickleball's too trendy and cool. We're going to the
I
old
know
school.
it.
I have played pickleball and I actually wasn't too bad at it because it's a racket sport, and if you played a lot of racket sports, it's kind of fun.
Yep. Yep.
But, I don't feel old enough yet to play pickleball. I need to wait a couple more years.
All right. Fair enough. Has pickleball hit Paris, Craig?
It's here. Yeah, it's here and it's close enough where we see it and we're like, we need to do that. We need to do that, but we have not yet.
All right. All right. But you're
Well,
not.
I have the paddles and some balls, so when you guys are next here, we can try it again together.
I think we have a challenge on the table.
There
I
you
like
go.
it.
Yes.
Craig, why don't you jump in?
Sure. Hi everyone. I'm Craig Vizina and I'm an American who has been living in France for the last 26 years now. We are actually applying for French citizenship now. I guess that's my Moxie moment. We've been talking about that for a while. Not to relinquish American citizenship at all, but we've had 4 kids born here. This is, I can't believe it's been 26 years. And this has become our home. And so gathering all the paperwork that goes with that, going to city halls, getting all that sort of stuff has been a huge endeavor over the last few days. But a little bit more about me. So I actually knew Christy back in the 20th century. My first job ever was at the American International School of Salzburg, Austria. And that was the beginning of 20 years working in some amazing international schools. But Christy was one of my favorite colleagues ever. And after a lot of years where we didn't talk that much. It was really nice last year to bring her onto the spaceship team and to get to work with you again. And thank you for leading this podcast, Christy.
Absolutely. But I need to make it clear the agreement is no pictures, sharing pictures from 1996. Is that agreed upon?
No, it's not actually. You're from Bavaria or Austria 25 years ago.
I have seen a few of those pictures, and you both looked really good then, and you look even better now.
Okay. All right.
Thank you,
Top
Todd.
the bonus
Yes.
point for the day. I like it. All right. Well, I'm Christy Marcasani, and I work with the education programs and initiatives here at the Spaceship Academy. As Craig mentioned, pretty new to the team, but it's been an awesome transition. For 26 years before that, I worked at a university focusing on international recruitment and admissions, which was an amazing career and a great opportunity to see the world. But I'm glad to have landed here with the spaceship, and I'm excited to engage in so many projects, including this podcast. So awesome. So, my moment, I actually have a visual aid. It's not a picture of Craig from our youth, but I wanted to share this with everyone because I think it's pretty cool. Is as many of the you who are here in northern US and maybe other parts of the world know, the Northern Lights was really visible this week. So this is from Tuesday night. My husband and I went out. This is about a block from our house, and the sky was just painted all sorts of colors. And it was really amazing. We've tried to see it a few times and we keep missing it or being in the wrong spot, but this was the night that we really got to see quite the show, and it was beautiful.
That's an amazing picture. Did you take that with a phone or do you have a really super duper
No,
camera?
I took that with the phone. So you can imagine someone who had a nice camera, how that would have turned out for them.
Yeah. So this is a bucket list item for me. I've always thought that I need to go to like Norway or Iceland or
Come to
something.
Iowa.
Like why is this now accessible in early November in Iowa? Like what's the phenomena?
We've been talking about that a little because our observation was it seems like it's happening more often and is more visible. And I don't know if it's that it's just you're seeing it more because of social media and people are sharing it, that they're able to predict it better because of new technology. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't know if it's that like we're more aware that we should be looking at the sky or if it's also maybe in my case maybe because I'm as I get older I'm more interested in these kind of like, spatial heavenly type of phenomena whereas maybe before I just, didn't pay much attention, but it does seem like it's in the news all the time now like Jupiter is going to be visible tomorrow and the harvest moon is going to be closer to Earth than ever before and it's like this stuff like I don't remember this stuff
Yeah.
in my previous 50 years.
Yeah.
You know,
I
I
think you're,
think I think it always happened, maybe less, maybe this is part of climate change or whatever, but I also think the fact that we are so tuned in online to different things, we know more than we did because in the old days you'd have to see it on like the 6 o'clock news if you
Yeah.
watched it that something was going to happen that night, and now you're just bombarded with it. Like I saw so many Northern Lights pictures on my feeds from my socials of my friends in places like Iowa and Wisconsin and Minneapolis and stuff, and I think maybe we just see it more, Craig. But I also remember when I was in college in Wisconsin, we would go far up north to visit some of our friends. And the further up north you were, the less light pollution there was. I actually saw these a couple times, not as vivid as this, but you know, definitely it's been going on for a long time, and it does
Yeah.
happen around here, in the US more often than it used to. But you don't have to go to Finland or Iceland, I don't think, anymore to
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing.
you can go to Christie's
And I'm
house.
sure, like, the fact that where you are, Chris, you have no light pollution, right? So you
yeah.
probably got a much better experience than a big city like ours would have.
Well, we could see it in town, but like we drove out then even further outside of town. So we were in a place that had even less light pollution. And that really helped to then, even with the human eye, to be able to see all the colors and the movement to it. So I think
Yeah.
is part of it is light pollution too in some places. So
Yeah. Really beautiful picture.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to share that. Something I would recommend to anybody to try to check that out. All right, so that's a little bit about us and what's going on in our lives. Anyone who knows me and has been on a road trip with me specifically knows that I also love to do random questions, book a question. So I wanted to add a little segment here where we just asked a quick kind of funny fun question. I have this book here. So I'm going to put my colleagues here on the spot, and this was not rehearsed ahead of time, and ask them to pick a number, and I will read the question and you'll get to answer. Are you guys up for this?
A number between 1 and
1,000.
2,000,
my
3,000.
gosh. All right.
All right. All right. Craig, you want to start?
Sure. I'll go with my lucky number, 2,713.
Is that really your lucky?
Yeah, I'm
No.
sure that's right at the
I wore it. Yeah, it was my basketball number in high school.
You did you play on?
And I'm sure you have all seen this, but I did not say 6'7" for a reason.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Oh,
All right.
geez.
We've aged out of that, right? But
Yes.
for young listeners, all
That
Good
would have
for you.
attracted a huge following.
dang
Good
it.
for you.
All right. We got it here. What's the longest you've gone without sleep?
Oh my gosh. I don't think I've ever gone more than a full nights without sleep. Certainly not 2 nights. I don't even know how I would function if I went 2 nights without sleep.
So you need your 8 hours or some.
I'm useless. Well, I mean, I don't need 8 necessarily, but if I don't get a proper, like, sleep, yeah, I'm pretty useless.
Okay. All
But
right.
superpower, I can do a 10-minute power nap, and
Mm,
that will feel like I got 3 or 4 hours, and I got that superpower pretty late in life, but it's awesome. It's one of the best superpowers you could ever have.
love it. Love
Yeah.
it. That's good. So do you sleep well on planes?
No, not so much.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right, Todd, do you have a number for me?
Sure, I'll go with my ancient year of birth, 1959.
All right.
Dating myself
In
here. Is that
All right. This is a good one. Can you do an impersonation of anyone?
I can do some that would be politically incorrect, so I will pass on those. Uh, I you know what? I used to be able to do all these really good dialects, and I got very good at doing an Indian dialect, and now everything I do becomes an Indian dialect. I can't do other ones anymore. I don't know why.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
And my son is Indian, so I give that asterisk that it's legal
Yeah.
for me to do it around with him, but other than that, like, I can't do, like, famous people or Donald Trump or anything like that, sadly.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll have you work on one for future
Yeah,
episodes. There you go.
for next time, I will, I'll do one, I'll try to find, and it's, from that question number in my year of birth, my reference points are gonna be, like, people who are long dead. It's not gonna be, like, some current celebrity because I don't know who they are.
Of like a good Robert De Niro for you or something like that. Do you think you could perfect that?
Let me work on that.
Right, I'm gonna ask a question. I'm gonna do 77. Um, and let's see what we get here. And the question is, how emotional are you? Say that I'm not tons emotional. I'm pretty steady and even. I don't kind of go either way too much. I tend to err on the side of happy. So that's where I land. And, if I need to cry, I will, but that doesn't happen very often. So that's good. And I don't get angry. I'm not really an angry person. So I think I'm pretty steady. So
Yeah.
all right. Okay. There's an agreement on that here.
That's
Yeah, I
my
think it's
take.
one of your
I
strengths.
don't disagree.
All right. Fair enough. So, all right. Well, thank you guys for playing along with me. We're going to turn a little bit and get a little more serious. And we're going to have a little discussion of something that's on our radar. So, Craig, you had agreed to bring some sort of trend or headline to us that we could kind of dive into and talk a little bit about. So, you want to take the mic and share with us what you came up with?
Yeah, so as I think is clear by now, my heart is very much in education and how technology can help us to make education more meaningful more impactful, not just for the learner, but more broadly, how we can kind of raise the bar in education. So I tend to be attracted to headlines of that nature. And I think, just as a preface, I think a lot of the conversation right now around AI and education is actually not thinking big enough, in the sense of what actually is this moment right now? What are the implications? Where are we going? And I think a lot of the conversations in AI and education are more around like cheating and assessments and those things, which are important, but I think there are much bigger capital Q questions that we aren't talking about. With that said, I saw an interesting headline earlier today where MIT is launching a guidebook for K to 12 educators on AI. And the quote in the headline is, "We're fumbling around in the dark," right? Which I actually think captures it pretty well. There's many, many, you know, clear-headed people doing really purposeful things with AI. But if we zoom out and what's happening school to school, district to district, state to state, country to country, we are fumbling around in the dark. And so it's nice to just see that kind of called out, that that's the moment we're in. And that's not a judgment, but that's the reality right now.
Yeah. I think I agree wholeheartedly. I have had a lot of talks with people who are in both secondary education, higher education, and there's just a real struggle for to get everybody up to speed, not only in the skill part of it, but in figuring out where it fits in and how it fits in. And I think that there are some people leading the conversations, but this is such a new technology that nobody's totally versed or well versed on this. So we're all kind of, like they say, the blind leading the blind in some ways.
Yeah, and my mind, education is transversal, kind of societally wide aspect that we should be concerned about with AI. But the questions of AI transform education, right? These are questions about the quote unquote real world. These are questions about the future of humanity. These are questions that are not like way down the road types of questions. These are here and now, and yet it's very rare that I hear people asking some of these questions. And you know we want to, I think, take comfort in the fact that the future will look like the past, and I just don't think we can say that anymore. We just can't.
Though, I think that part of the issue is not so much fumbling with AI. AI is the thing du jour right now. But I look back on the last 20, 30 years of like since I got out of law school, for example, and the technology from going from 1980 till now. Back then, like every couple of years, something new. Oh, we can use a fax machine now. Oh, we can use a typewriter that fixes the errors. Oh, we've got a word processor. Like those things kind of like phased in, like every year or two, something new would come in. And now stuff is just happening so fast and furious that we're still trying to adapt to stuff, to technologies before AI, let alone
Mhm.
AI. Like look at education. Like when we all went to school, and you guys are not that old, you didn't have phones that were smartphones. You didn't have the ability to look stuff up. We'd go to the library and look it up in a book. Nobody goes to the library and looks anything up in a book now unless they're nostalgic. So my thinking is that this stuff is coming so fast and furiously that we're like five technologies behind in trying to figure out how it applies to the bigger scheme of things. And kind of what we're doing at Spaceship with looking at everything and pulling in AI and asynchronous and live. There's a recipe for learning that has a little bit of everything in it, but the everything bucket just keeps getting bigger and bigger and full of more stuff before we can even adapt to two things before. So I think it's
Yeah.
the speed and pace that's really the challenge, not that this is a new thing that we'll never get our arms around, because we will.
I
Yeah, and the paradox is that, in a way, it's the schools that are the front lines of, okay, what is this new reality? And it has to be the most agile and nimble in kind of, picking up on, okay, here's this moment, and here's how it's different from last year. And that's just not the nature of schools. Schools are conservative by nature generally, and they're the slowest moving in terms of like wide based change for good reason, right? We're very thoughtful and careful about everything that we do in schools. And so those things just don't mesh.
Yeah, and I can speak mainly for schools in the US. I think it is a real struggle right now for teachers. First of all, a lot of teachers are feeling overwhelmed just by like the basic responsibilities they have for young people, some of the behavior issues, some of the, accessibility issues they have in the classroom. So sometimes I think they're worried about trying to cover this kind of basic requirements of being a teacher, much less trying to think like, how can we do more and expand the possibilities with AI, which we know are there for them. And I think, in a lot of conversations we have within the Spaceship Academy is figuring out how we can provide tools and training opportunities that can help teachers then push beyond, first of all, by letting AI help them make their job easier, but then also help them kind of expand the potential for their classroom. So I think it's
Yeah.
exciting because
Well,
that's where we're
and
at.
how do you use it? Like, the whole big thing has been, is it cheating? Is it cheating out? Are you cheating young people on learning by letting them just do stuff that doesn't really fit the mold of what we used to call learning? You know, think about way back. I remember when I was in high school, like, it was a big debate whether you could use calculators on math tests. Okay. This is, I know I'm old.
Calculus?
Okay. But
Mm.
still, right? Because it was like they thought you were cheating because the old way was you had to do this stuff and work through it. And
Yeah.
now, like, every new thing that comes out under the old definition would be cheating. So if you're writing a paper using AI, how do these kids learn to write if they've never had to do it the old fashioned way? Maybe they never need to learn to write because we have AI, but finding that comfort zone of how do you keep people learning with all this new tech, because it changes the way that you can't just like say, okay, go in a silo and learn the old way that we did when I was a kid in the 70s, because it won't work. You can't do it that way anymore. So how do you do it this way, but still have kids and young people or others walk out the end of the door with the ability to do something other than just ask a question and get the paper written for them?
Yeah, yeah. I guess the other thing that is striking me more and more these days is, I still consider myself, as I'm sure you do, pretty young, youthful. But I have kids now who are growing up, and at least one of them is an adult. And if you think about the experience of my childhood or your childhoods and theirs, I mean, we are literally the last generation who will ever live in a world that's not dominated by AI, for better or worse, right? Our kids will never know that world, what that world was like before AI. And we used to say that about smartphones, but now this is a totally different, you know, level of transformation, right? So, just sort of like the gaps in the human experience from one generation to the next. I mean, even things that we did a few years ago, like I'm gonna Google that or whatever, like that just sounds kind of ridiculous that you would say that now, right? So it's like that sort of like let's just acknowledge what's really happening right now. And not to say we shouldn't, you know, try to preserve lots of things from the past or whatever. Like this is really this is an inflection point of all inflection points,
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
view.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I've shared this story before that I was having a conversation with someone actually at the university level, and he was in charge of a program on ethics. And so I thought it would be nice to have a conversation about ethics and AI because that's something we are really trying to explore at the spaceship. And his response was, I don't think ethics and AI should be in the same sentence. And this to me seems so problematic. I get it. I get that there are some real big questions that we need to answer, but to not even lean into the fact that this is the reality. This ship has
Mhm.
sailed. Like this is where we're heading. And either you embrace and try to figure out how to insert ethics into this and make it better and kind of explore the possibilities rather than just turning a blind eye on it and pretending it's not there. I just don't think we can do that. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
No,
just nostalgic for our youth and going to the playground, but that's not what kids are doing as much today. They're doing something different.
but hitting on the point of ethics, you know, I had a conversation with one of our fellows who's an ethics guy and a philosopher, and it's amazing because if we wait for the world to create an ethical and sustainable grid around AI, it's not going to happen because there's no body working on it, right? Just like some of the internet itself and what gets on social media and how I get a feed differently from someone who's a Fox News watcher or whatever. But there is space for groups like us to say, okay, we're going to look at AI, and in our both our education programs and in our applications, we're going to set up our own kind of ethical and sustainable guidelines that we're going to follow, and we can put it out there. Just like when you go to the grocery store, you can buy something that's organic or not organic. I don't think there's going to be a rule structure yet, but groups like us can at least start to build rules that reasonable people can say that makes sense, and I'm going to go that direction instead of the totally unfiltered, unethical. In order to ask it a question, there's some gigantic factory somewhere churning out tons of energy to get you this 5-word answer to your question. So people like us, I think, are going to help set the ethical and sustainable structure to these technologies. It's not gonna There's no body out there that's gonna do it.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that's a great segue. I know we could talk about this for a long time, and I think that in future episodes, we'll be revisiting this topic. But I wanted to just move to kind of our final kind of segment that we're going to have, which is our flight path ahead, talking about some of the things that the spaceship is leaning into or working on. And I think some of them really correlate with this topic that we have. So, Craig, do you mind kind of sharing some of the initiatives that you're really focusing on right now?
Yeah, I mean, as you can probably tell, this is something that really is a passion of mine, this type of conversation. And I think it links really naturally to sort of this idea of futures thinking. What are some of the signals that we see today that can help us to try to project ahead? What's coming? What are some of the trends to look out for? What are some possible implications? What are some opportunities that we can see from these trends? And so it's a very new field in education. Some people call it future thinking. Some people call it scenario planning, forecasting. But it's that type of being able to see around the corner a little bit is a superpower that leaders, and I think even rank and file, need to begin to cultivate.
Awesome. I'm glad you brought that up because that connects with a project that I've been working on, which is developing a group of young people. We call it the Future Shapers Fellowship. And it's really upper level high school and lower level college, university students who really care about thinking more about the impacts of technology on society, on the environment, on their life in the future. And one of the things we're doing is leaning into this future thinking, where we have virtual meetings and we're challenging students to look at signs of change around them so that they are ready to be leaders in the future on these types of topics. So that's something on my radar. And
Yep,
Todd, what about
that's
you?
wonderful.
What are some things you're leaning into?
So the cool thing is that you guys are working a lot on getting people primed and educated about looking around the corner to see what's coming down the road, whether it's the future shapers, whether it's the programs you're building and we're building for different universities. I'm kind of looking at the side of how do we take what we already have in the tech and the AI and apply it to something really useful that's going to help people, that's going to help planet, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things I'm really excited about is this fitness wellness rover that we're working on that basically is going to do all the stuff we just kind of talked about. Hopefully, it takes ethical AI, train it with humans, put guardrails around it so it makes good sense instead of just giving you a bunch of garbage that's pulled from the universe. And then folks can work with this application to get in shape, to have better diet, to be able to be more motivated to do the things that will lower healthcare costs and will allow them to live a more fit and active life and make better decisions. And while we haven't totally cracked the nut, we're very close to cracking the nut on that. And when we have something like that done, Those types of things can be a showcase about all we just talked about: ethical AI used for some application that's for the good of people or the planet or whatever. And it's really exciting for me to drill into this and try to bring something from here into reality. And stay tuned. We'll talk more about it as we move forward.
Well, I'm excited to hear because yesterday I just signed back up for a gym and I went for the first time and I just found myself wandering around aimlessly trying to figure out what should I be doing as a
Yeah, you
50-year-old
need some.
woman
You
that's
need
I
what
need
you
some
should
guidance. So sign me up.
and the guidance that you need is going to be different from the guidance that Craig needs or I need or my
Absolutely.
20-year-old son needs, because we're all in different places trying to get somewhere better, but there is no one size fits all. And that's one of the beauties of AI and of human trained AI. You can do a many sizes fit everybody and it still works and is seamless and is helpful.
And that's one of the beauties of the Spaceship Academy is that we are available and looking to customize different types of programs and projects to anybody. So I think we'll end on that very positive note. Thank you, Todd and Craig, for coming today and sharing. Thank you for those who are listening for tuning in to hear a little bit about some of the things that we are working on, and look for future episodes. As you know, as you learned today, we have promised you a Robert De Niro impersonation, possibly some embarrassing pictures from the 90s, and certainly more insight and interesting information. So we'll leave it at that point. Again, please leave your comment in the comment section if you have anything you want to say or hear about, and if you have an idea for a name for these segments. So thank you and take care.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.